Welcome back friends. This is the last section in terms of integrated marketing communication plan and planning which we are discussing. Now I would be very brief in talking about the role of advertising agencies in IMC planning, and because we have touched upon this section with slight elaborative kind of a perspective, and while initiating this section I mentioned that there are hundreds of people involved in developing an integrated marketing communication. So, but definitely we must acknowledge the aspects while thinking in terms of a plan, structuring the plan. And I would not say that advertising agencies are not the ones who are developing integrated marketing communication plan. Many a times they do that, but most of the times the marketing department and especially the communication division of the marketing department of an organization does that in consonance with the integrated advertising agencies or integrated marketing communication agencies. And we have already talked about that there are several kinds of IMC agencies, with full service agencies or specific organizations working. So, they have divisions, they have people, they have experts who actually support you or independently along with their team develop integrated marketing communication plan. So, see, they are the ones who actually bring in assessment of the brand's value, the external environment and opportunities and threats, because most of the times they have their research divisions which continuously keep on apprising them of what is happening around. They go for longitudinal marketing researches which can be specifically utilized by the organization concerned or the product concerned or for whichever purpose we are trying to put up the plan. And because in last section I almost ended up with the mention of political parties, for example. So, the marketing research organizations which are focusing upon the thought process of the voters and the electorate, they have that kind of a data and they are building up a longitudinal research all through, and they know what is happening around, and they have a feel of the ground, they have some structured analysis also, and their sample can vary. Definitely we will not go into those kind of details, but for that you can refer to IMC research section and other marketing research books as well. So, they keep on assessing what is the brand strength, and especially in terms of value, and there is a whole lot of a process of analyzing and calculating value, and then what should they be looking at in terms of their advantage or disadvantage in terms of environment and so on. And then their major role is to translate the current marketing plan and marketing status of the brand into, you see, they are focusing upon marketing aspect, which definitely now should be looked upon with reference to advertising objectives, again communication. And if you might watch me someday on product and brand management discussions, so we might talk about brand value chain, wherein marketing investment is an important element. If you want, you can refer to Keller's book, and you would realize how that actually guides us in thinking about communication. So, that is where market assessment, market status motivates the advertisers to think in terms of advertising objectives, advertising strategies, what kind of events should they be organizing. This morning only I was talking to some of my students from management program, and one of the students mentioned about two footwear companies, wherein one footwear company was associated with a sports event and officially associated with a sporting event, and the other which was not associated with that sporting event still got the bigger advantage because somehow they had that particular kind of an advertising strategy which worked for them. So, that is where so that class presentation was around these lines only. What kind of finished advertisements and integrated brand promotion material they should be having to for being taken to the customers, media placement and execution of marketing campaigns, what, when, where, those kind of considerations we have talked about it. But here you must remember that integrated marketing communication companies, they have people who keep on thinking about all the elements we have discussed all through in consonance with the marketing teams of the organizations. If somehow organizations do not have those kind of elaborate marketing teams and they are focusing largely on sales, then it is primarily the job of integrated marketing communication companies to do that. And if organizations are large, then definitely they have, you know, people to go to in terms of discussions. Now I would be taking you through specific case studies, and these are narratives, these are very well known case studies, very well established. There are books written on these organizations, their integrated marketing communication campaigns, effect of those. We all know them as very specific established brands. They are loved by Indians, and these case studies, small narratives, would strengthen the arguments we have built around in past 3 sessions about integrated marketing communication plan, its importance, its elements and so on. I would be reiterating few things during the elaboration of these cases, and rest you may fetch from different sources, especially about when you read about these cases through different sources and books written on them. So, first is Amul, one of the most beautiful campaigns India has seen. Amul Mope is synonymous with butter in India, and you see, utterly butterly delicious. I don't think that any Indian would have missed it somehow, whichever category of consumer he belongs to, whichever demographic profile he belongs to. Largely, if he can speak and think and it's just, that means beyond a certain age, just to mention that. So, he can sing, or he would have sung this utterly butterly delicious once, or at least taken this name Amul kind of. So, and in 1966 Amul hired an advertising agency to design a new ad campaign for Amul butter, and this is a famous incident, and a very famous advertising company was hired. So, and they designed an ad campaign as a series of hoardings with topical ads relating to day-to-day issues. Now, you see, those days outdoors were, or hoardings were, the most prominent methods basically. You had large hoardings everywhere, placed in different prominent locations of the city, around the circles and major roads and so on, and you had to paint them. And Amul decided to think in terms of coming up with several kinds of themes associated with that particular Amul butter campaign, and then they brought in pertinent day-to-day issues which connected not only the social dots, but also the culture, the behavior of people all around through this Amul moped, and which this campaign launched in 1967, wherein Charni Road billboard in Mumbai came up, and this utterly butterly Amul girl was born, and people say that she has not grown an inch since. Basically, this beautiful girl, small little girl, has become the part of our lives. And you see, while I am narrating this, I am assuming that you are going through all the elements we have discussed in the preceding sections: situation analysis, then budgeting, then other aspects, objective and task we have mentioned, and then several aspects of execution and evaluation. And then you see this thumb size 6-year-old girl in red polka dotted dress, blue hair, round eyes, chubby cheeks, she winks at you. And Similar kind of a campaign they put up on television I remember, and I don't know how many of you have seen that on internet, when this girl used to swing by a rope and used to go from one tree to the other, and beautiful, utterly butterly delicious Amul sound used to come and so on. And then you see that gained beautiful wonderful attention from all sides. Friday to Friday star was seen in a new avatar every Friday, kind of. That is what their theme process was, basically. That is how they intelligently structured it, this campaign. At this moment, I want you to think back that they have been selling butter, a product which is otherwise a part of our lives, a product which can be branded, a product which may not so effectively be required to be branded, because butter we consume with bread and we consume with so many things, and they would have sold it just like Amul butter, basically. But then I would draw your attention to the fact that Utterly Butterly Delicious not only sold that butter to the largest of the levels, and still it is doing very well. That also helped Amul in going for several products. I don't know, this Utterly Butterly Delicious is large, or Amul is equally large in terms of as far as the recall perspective, or they both gel with each other. Amul definitely is a very big name, but they gel with each other so much so that you just can't separate them. That is what the point is. And that is where the power of integrated marketing communication and integrated marketing communication plan comes in. And thanks to the advertisers and marketers related to that. So now these ads, they focus more on popular events and related to social, culture and political, sports and cinemas for creating stories. So that was how they were going for. They were touching upon sports, society, politics, everything. And you see, this is one of the longest running campaigns in the world. Really? You can check upon it, but it does. And there has been, there have been 4,000 Utterly Butterly hoardings, which is very large in number. So just go through that log, just go through the details, and if you can fetch that book, that would be wonderful, the Amul story, and that will help you in understanding on how brands are being created with the help of beautiful integrated marketing communication planning and lots of creativity, which you would be touching upon in the next sections. Now you see, there was no television in 1960s, 60s precisely, and the only media available for advertising was press, outdoor, cinema. And as I said, they focused upon outdoors. There were specific cinema goers, so they went for clippings also, and those days were the slide based kind of appearance of advertisements in cinemas as well, and then background sound was there. So large speaker based sound was Utterly Butterly Delicious, and there were no sophisticated speakers. So and then radio was a major kind of avenue. So for radio, a jingle was composed using the slogan Utterly Butterly Delicious. And just to bring to your notice, just mention it as far as the sound goes, and then let's see what happens. So just listen to it and see for yourself how it worked. Delicious Amul. Remember, such a short clip in terms of this jingle which came on radio, but it worked, and the timing chosen was wonderful. Mornings, whenever families were together, and it was practically planned that way to reach to the minds of the customers at the end of the day. And she has become a mascot for practically all Amul products, despite Amul's attempts to see her as mnemonic for their butter only. But still, as I said, this iconic perspective which they utilized through a very strong and robust planning supported them in all the other endeavors which they were making. I mentioned about it, that one effort can support your lines and your width as well. Topical ads pose a challenge. They need to appear immediately after the issue breaks out, else they lose their immediacy. But you see, these are one of those campaigns, or Amul is one of those campaigns which wherein theme and style remain unchanged for a very long time, and at nearly 5 decades. Now that is very, very large period basically, wherein you are carrying forward, and there comes in all the rationality associated with budgeting, cost, and whichever way you want to look at it, and rest is up to you to think in terms of what kind of a brand equity and brand strength it holds in your lives, in your minds, and so on. Now let us briefly mention the key elements of Amul's success. Consistency. So this remains there for a very long time, utterly but really delicious. Simplicity, simple ideas, events, and creative communication. Humorous appeal, and then attributing the culture and pride of India, the taste of India, that Amul says it is the taste of India. You are touching the chords of Indians with reference to being the part of their lives actually. And then definitely all the stories related to whatever is going in our country, that has become. And you all know that the inception, the origin of Amul definitely was oriented towards development of communities, people in the villages, and so on. So definitely it was an effort which was not just a business and marketing effort, but definitely it was related to developing communities, and it has been a national pride all through. Quality and variety of product offerings. So definitely it was supported by their successful integrated marketing communication plan. So the strategies, message in terms of symbols, signs, image, which they have communicated through Amul Girl, a patriotic feeling, use of humor, typical English language, Hindi plus English, they have started calling it English language now, emphasizing more on brand rather than single product, and huge expenditure on advertising, but with lots of rationality. And if you will look at that with a perspective of percentage, minimal, that is total ad spend is even less than 1% of the net revenue, which is very, very rational actually. If you will compare that with several other kinds of organizations which are spending much more, you can find that data through several statistical sites or databases, Statista we often use, and so on. So there you will find that Amul is one of the rational spenders basically. Media choices, we have talked about outdoor media, hoardings and billboards, they have been their mainstay. Broadcast media, which they went for very long time, and then cinemas, magazines, newspapers, internet through independent websites and portals, and so on. And for competition analysis, you may look into Statista. As I said, I would not specifically mention what others could not do. And now I am coming to a very important case study, Tata Tea Jaago campaign. Very effective. Amul had a different kind of a perspective. They started their journey in 1960 and they came along as far as 5 decades or so. Jaago campaign is fairly contemporary, and that is why I have chosen this to mention here. And the most important element of Jaago is that as Amul touched upon social elements and their integrated marketing communication plan encompassed the values based elements related to society and culture, Jaago also focused upon that. And this has got very specific mention in different kinds of discussions around the globe. People have written several case studies on this campaign, as well as in the case of Amul as well. So this was launched in 1985, and when Tata Tea came up with a poly pack in as far as packaging goes in terms of tea, and the brand was built on the support of Garden Fresh story with the platform of Asli Tazgi. So, the freshness was the mainstay in terms of the positioning of Tata Tea goes. As we all know, Tata Tea holds a very prominent place as far as whole of the tea market goes, India as well as several other countries. So, now from a single variant, this went for several kinds of associated brands, premium, gold, Agni and so on, and larger focus was on the youth basically. Their marketing research and integrated marketing communication research worked for them. They would have gone through that extensively thanks to their marketing team and advertising organization supporting them. So, the objective was to awaken the youth for specific campaign Jaago. The objective was to awaken the youth to cast their votes and make a difference in political leadership of India. Now, you see, India has been actually focusing upon building political integrity all through since its independence, and we have been working towards that regardless of several political parties involved, and everyone has been contributing there all through. But this campaign was focused on awakening the youth and associating them with that kind of a thought process, not only as the aware citizens, but to come forward as future generation leaders. Recently we have seen several young leaders coming up in the fray and entering in active political life, serving people, and from several political parties. So, and the new positioning was related to a brand of tea that not only awakes you, but also awakens the consciousness in you, related to the democratic values, related to the strength you have, related to the values which India has been nurturing all through. And the key communication message was, अगर आप सोएंगे तो यह देश कैसे जागेगा. Youth probably at that time was trying to awaken themselves up, or probably the marketing research would have told that they are slightly deviating towards becoming indifferent, whichever way you look at it, positive or slightly not so positive. But then this campaign focused upon involving them in terms of their awakening, and it worked, and I do not know the role of this campaign in awakening the youth altogether, but it is working. So, Jaago became, it became prominent. It began as a movement in 2007. Tata Tea campaign is about liberation and empowerment, as we all know, and the whole idea of awakening is integral to tea. So, that is how people look at it. And many a times some parts of the campaign I remember wherein this person comes back home and this his spouse asks him that have you casted your vote, and that part wherein awakening towards becoming an active citizen, executing your voting rights was the mainstay of that particular portion. So, wherein many people did not go out to vote actually. So, governments have been continuously projecting the importance of coming out and voting. So, this campaign took that to the forefront, and that is how they went ahead. And this aimed at awakening the masses and alerting them to their responsibilities. And then Tata Tea used number of interesting advertisements to engage the youth into Jaago campaign. And just listen to a clipping and you would realize, you will just recall how did it do. And remember, we are talking of integrated marketing communication plan.
खैर चलिए, हर सुबह सिर्फ उठो मत, टाटा टी.
हर सुबह सिर्फ उठो मत, जागो रे. Now this is interesting, So look at the creative element associated with that, and I will be addressing that separately, these kind of things later on. Then visitors were led step by step through the process of registering to vote, and then television, radio, internet campaign and social networking sites, Facebook, Twitter and online ads were continuously brought in, An outreach program for on-ground activities in college campuses and offices were also designed, because you have to generate a discussion and dialogue amongst youth, and so this and we are talking of integrated brand promotion. So here you utilize several kinds of events also to complement the advertising you are doing. And the task of media was to build awareness, connect with the youth of India, engage them, call to action, and build brand equity for Tata Tea. And the results? Campaign recognition, as several referrals say, was 86.3% as against the benchmark of 63.4% which they decided. And remember, we had talked about evaluation, how to evaluate, what to evaluate. So here they are talking of brand recognition as an evaluation benchmark. Brand association jumped to 98.8% as against the benchmark of 39.5%. Over 600,000 people registered to vote at Jaago.com, and Jaago campaign consistently won at IFI Awards. In 2009, the campaign was awarded the Gold IFI Consumer Products and the Bronze IFI Integrated Marketing. Tata Tea Jaago campaign has acted as an activist beyond advertising, and the brand recall is still very high. It did exceptionally well. So this section sort of elaborates upon the evaluation criteria they chose, and this also exemplifies the methodologies they would have gone through in terms of judging what they wanted and what happened. And definitely awards are the testimony. Awards also are one of the modes wherein the independent jury and judges and people involved in rewarding such efforts, they also measure the effectiveness of whatever has been done as far as this particular campaign goes through their own methodologies. So that also becomes a sort of a measurement criteria and benchmark of the achievement of one's objectives in terms of integrated communication plan and program. So this is where I rest the case of integrated marketing communication. I rest the case of integrated marketing communication planning, and I hope that we have justifiably gained an insight on how plan is developed, how plan works, and how important it is to take us to the levels we decided for ourselves. There are hundreds of testimonies to that. Amul and Jaago are one of those successful examples which give us that insight. Goodbye. See you in the next section, when I will be talking about several other exciting elements of this mesmerizing world of integrated marketing communication. Thank you.